Welcome to Yeshiva Daf, Shir sponsor Lunishma Saim Yakashol Nav Sitzchok. We're holding Basra Daf Kuf Gimel, we're starting the new Perik Shvi, Perik Base Core. Zog the Mishnah, Oyimer Lechaveiroi, Base Core offer and Imoicher Lecha. So someone sells his friend Base Core offer. What does Base Core offer? As the Rashbam points out, it means, look at the second Rashbam in the Mishnah. Base Core offer is like the Rashbam, Kloimar Haroy Lizriel. Need to be roy to be planted. If I didn't say the word offer, I feel kula sloying with you, even if it's all rocks. Offer tells me that it's earth that you can plant. Toises disagrees. If you want to see the first Toises in the parak, it says, with the next part of the Mishnah will be the Chiddush. For the close claim with you. Today disagrees with that concept, but accompanying the Rashbam learns of word orfa tells you that royal is real. So look at the Mishnah. If someone tells his friend, I'm selling you a base core offer, hayu shoym nekoyim amukim asor tvachim, or sloim gvoyim asor tvachim, if there are crevices stitched in the field that are 10 tvachim low, or there's rocks that are 10 tefachim high. The din is eini dodi. You don't measure that with the field. Pachos mikan, less than 10 tefachim. You dodi mimo. V'imhaloi loy keves grofer. You added the letter chaf. Keves grofer, like base grofer. Afilu yashim nekoy hamukim yoysim asar tefachim. Even if it's more than 10 tefachim, or sloim gvoyim yoysim asar tefachim, or higher than 10 tefachim, arin dodi mimo. There are nin dodi mimo. So the extra chaf tells you I'm taking not only the field, but also the rocks and the crevices. Now here, just an interesting thing to point out. If you look at the Rashbam in Dira Matchil, he says, Ein dodi mimo, so the Rashbam, Avanoislo beskur sholem mikarka chalak. You have to give him a straight line karka. The kevan del mukim ogvoyim asoro, so the Rashbam adds that's not only 10. It has to be 4 by 4 in width. The area of the 10 has to be 4 by 4. Because it has to be mokum choshuv like we find in Shabbos. So this Rashbam brings a very interesting discussion regarding Hilchos Tefillah. Because the shaila is, in Hilchos Tefillah, we know that if a person is standing next to tzoyel, so if there's a bad smell, then you can't daven next to bad smell. But if there's no bad smell, you're still not allowed to stand next to tzoyel. If you have a place which is 10 tefachim high, 10 tefachim low, so then you could daven if you don't have a bad smell. Says the Bach, but it's only if it's arba arba, like we see there is Bava here. If it doesn't have arba arba, it's not a mokav choshev answer. So many points can argue with that. So that is really the source comes from here. Now, one interesting thing just to point out is, so we're talking about, Reuven sold Shem in a field, told him selling you a straight field, and there's rocks, or there's crevices, which is more or less a 10 tefachim, that's not included in that sale. So who owns it? Who owns that extra 10 or low 10? The height of 10 or the depth of 10. So here we have a big discussion in Rishonim. Many Rishonim hold it wasn't sold. The seller said, I'm selling you a base core offer. He has to give him a flat line base core offer. And everything which is like a height of 10 tefachim or a ditch of 10 tefachim, that stays by the seller. But some Rishonim learn, no, the buyer buys it. It belongs to the buyer. Just the seller did not fulfill his obligation of giving the field. He needs to give a base core. So base core needs to be a flat line base core. In the middle you have these rocks or ditches. It belongs to the seller as well. But it's not part of the deal of doing a base course. So we should regarding that. Says the Gemara. It says this is a Mishnah. We learned this if you remember Meseches Kiddushin. It says like this: someone takes a field, the time doing yovel. Why are you doing yovel? Because then you have the shear that the Torah gave us. The Torah says that you have to sell base kur chomer. The Torah gave us a fixed price for this size of field. So that's what it says. For every bit soyim, which is the size the Torah gave, chamishu shekel kesef. You give 50 shekalim. That's the shear. Now, ayusha mekoyim amukim asor tefachim, osloim gvoyim asor tefachim. What happens if you have your ditches at 10 tefachim or racks of 10 tefachim? Says the Gemara, we're learning Daf Kuf Gimel Daf and Daf. Any dodimo, they're not part of the field that goes to Hekdesh. If it's less than that, there are nidadimo. Says the Gemara, why do you say that? The should be kodesh on their own. What does it mean? Rishonim had different ways to explain it. If you look at the Rashbam's understanding is when the Torah, according to Rashbam's understanding, the Havim in the Gemara was that the Torah said that only if you magdish a base choy mesorim, that size of a field, so then you redeem it for 50 shekol. If you magdish less, so you don't redeem it for the fixed amount, you redeem it for its value, the actual value, the actual market value. So says the Gemara according to Rashbam, why? The Torah did not tell you that the shear of a field needs to be base choy mesorim. It can be a smaller field or a larger field. It's proportionately. If I have a half of the size of base choy mesorim, so then I redeem it for 25 shekalim. If it's a quarter, so 12 and a half shekalim. If it's double, so it's 100. It's 50 per chomer. It's all proportionate. So why are you telling me that if I have a sela or a ditch, so it doesn't have a din egdish like the rest? It should have. It should not be part of the big field, but it should be on its own, even though it's smaller than that size. That's what Rashbam. Look at what Rashbam says. Rashbam says, the Rashbam says, "Ve'emai ein nimdodim imo livdos afi cheshbon lekatshu b'fnei haba b'nafsha kloima im en roitzel u'moidedon imo lefi shem sodeh choshuv v'nehatzvoi." What it says, it's going to be its own field. Ve'echol livdos kol echad ve'echad v'nehatzvoi k'magish ti sodeh shechol livdos zeh v'lo zeh. Each one its own field. Lekatshu mi'ame apinavshu should be it's still the same value. Sheroitze yivde oisom nekoyim b'fnei atzmom lefi cheshbon b'zer chomeso the same cheshbon chamishu shekel kesef. Kedin zeh chuzo. Ve'mai ktami ein imdod ma sheklal uchlal inam b'kedushat toyas zeh chuzo. As we just do those b'shvim. Why you say it doesn't have a din because zeh chuzo no? That's what was about it. The Torah tells you that when you have a base score, there's a certain fixed value. That's how you have to redeem it. That's how you have to redeem it. So the shaila is, why if it's less? You want to tell me the rock is not part of the field? Okay. But it still should have the same valuation. Said the Gemara, V'chitemo kevan lo have a base score lo kachin. You tell me let's not a base score. It needs to be that size. According to Rashbam, if not, you don't have that valuation. V'atanya sode ma tomud lo ima lefi shenema zera chomer soirim v'chamishu shekel kesef. It says that that's the shield. Zera chomer soirim is the Rashbam says before is base score. Then you do b'chamishu shekel kesef. Eli elishik dish b'yanazeh. Minayin rabos letech v'chatzi letech. Different shurim which are smaller. Or seyo v'tirko v'chatzi tirko. How do I know all these things are coming? Also, you do it based on this valuation. Told Loimas, so letech is a half a core. Because the base serve is a core. Letech is half of it, and chatzi letech is a quarter of it. And then you have a seyo, because every core is 30. This is 130. And then you have tirko, which is 3 kavim. Chatzi tirko, 1.5. Told Loimas, so the michol makom. That's something. Omar Rav Ukvar Bachamo Ocho Benekoyim Elimai Maskinon Telav Beizrionino. Tell you why. We're not talking about regular ditches in the field. We're talking about ditches that are full of water. If they're full of water, you can't sell them because they're not plantable. They can have very good. Tani do me destroy similar to racks. Racks you can plant. So also the ditches you can plant. Shramino. So okay, so why are you telling me that if it's less than the tvachim, it does go with the field? If you can plant it, it's not plantable. If that's the right word, it's not a royal Israel, so it should not be part of the field. So now nagani the Aro Mikru or Shidra the Aro Mikru. Meaning that's part of the field. Some parts of the field are not plantable or not, you can't, they're not real as real. Some parts of it. Rashi, the Rashbam says, Nagani Da'ar, what is that? Bikui HaKarka. Or Shidre Gavshushios. In other words, Shidre is like the spine. There are different areas of the karka that are not, you can't plant them, but it's still part of the karka if they're less than 10 tefachim. Once you get to the height of 10 tefachim, then if you can't plant them, they're not on the field. So the Gemara Ochamai, now let's go back to our Mishnah. By us, are we talking that they are plantable or not? Even though they're not full of water, they're still not sold with the field. My time in Odom Roitze Shitin Mohiso B'Mokom Echod. But he doesn't want to buy flat land. I don't want to buy land that has different levels. You have a rock, you have a ditch. No, that's not part of the deal. One second. But you just said that we brought a riot from the culture story. Rocks you can't plant. So the ditch is the same thing. It's only because you can't plant it. Kiktani doing this so no. That I want to tell you on less than 10 tefachim. And that's a chiddush to the other direction. Even though, if it's less than 10 tefachim, it's sold with the field. And even though you can't plant it, like a rock, it's still sold with the field. But once it reaches 10 tefachim, then it's not sold with the field. Once it reaches 10 tefachim, even if it is plantable, it's not sold with the field in this case. Different than kosher. Okay, so the Gemara. Pachas the kanim dodi mimo. The same. Says the Gemara. Omar Rav Yitzchok, Troshim she'omru beis arba kavim. What does it mean? When we have let's say lo shlosh ba, Trosh she'omru mastisi pachas the kanim dodi mimo. We said that it is measured with it. Anything which is not plantable, but it's less than 10 tefachim. When I take the 4 kavim together and I put them in the field, when I take all these rocks and ditches together to less than arba kavim. Meaning, more than arba kavim is not without accepting. So you're right. In other words, for what? For every core. I am accepting some rocks and some ditches, but once it gets to 4 kavim per core, now we're not accepting that anymore. There's certain measures are not together. Says the Gemara, Omer Rav Ukva Barchamo, V'hu shemuvloim b'chamisho kavim. What does that mean? So let's look at the next Rashba. V'hu shemuvloim b'narba kavim b'chamisho kavim. Shevuzoim b'kol chamish kavim. V'kol shekin yevuzoim yoyisegom b'shisho or b'shiv kavim debetil. אבל אם אינם מפוזרים על דל כובעים ומחצה, כמו שמכוסון דל ולא בטילי, ואין אינם דיל דנימו, דקר עבר אחז יכול דל כובעים דמי. ודווקא דל כובעים, פוחס דל כובעים, כיוון דהים גבוהים מסור, אפילו הבסל אחת דל דנימו. So again, here according to Rashbam, we're sharing different shaftim over here, but according to Rashbam, it goes like this. If it's more than 4 kavim, then we're not accepting it. If it's less than 4 kavim, you are accepting it. If it is exactly 4 kavim, well then it depends. If it's in an area of 5 kavim, you have 1 kav of regular field, of 4 kavim of rocks, you accept it. If it's in an area less than 5 kavim, then you don't accept it. That's what Rashbam means. So, Rav Chia bar Abba Omar B'Yechonon, no, the 4 kavim can be all over the field. Meaning that meaning if they are in the entire field, you get to that measurement, it's really a problem. Look at Losh Rashbam. Afilu muvloim betfei mihei kavim, kiritzuvim damu ve'eni dodim imo, v'kol shkei be'ei kavim ve'eni dodim imo, Meaning you have to get to Ruba Shasodi. You want to tell me the 4 kavim is fine? Yes, it is fine. But it needs to be spread in the majority of the field. You can't have the small minority of the field, less than 50%, and you'll have 4 kavim. It needs to be 4 kavim spread in more than 50%. Let's continue this Rishbam. Going down the base Kurav Shloishu saying, the regular course 30 saying. For Rubu have it Tetzayt saying, and the majority is 60 saying. Because every sale, it's a quarter of a kav. So within every sale you have 1 roiva. So this 4 kavim that we're talking about, where could it be spread? First of all, now itself, just spread it within 5 kavim. Not less than 5 kavim. You have to have 1 kav of a regular sod. The second one, Dharma says, no, it has to be in the majority of the field. And the Rishban does a cheshbon, but a roiv with the whole sale. What happens if I have a majority of the 4 kavim are in the minority of the field? And the minority of the 4 kavim are in the majority of the field. Meaning, when I count the whole 4 kavim, they're spread over the whole field. But I take the majority of the 4 kavim, that's spreading within the minority of the field. Less than 15 sale, I have most of the 4 kavim. So he wants says take, we're not sure. Why have you me? Answer give me now a question. The way the Rishbam learns it, that they are spread evenly, I mean they're spread in a good way, but they are spread in a way which makes it harder to plow. What's the case? Kishir mal. They are in the shape of a circle, a shear. Shear is a ring. Very hard to plant in it. Kishur mal. It is according to Rishbam, a square. If you look at the picture in the Rishbam, it's a picture of a square, not a line. Sometimes I shouldn't learn a line. It's a square, it's very hard to go in between it. It looks like 2 horns. Another picture you have over here. So it's hard to plow within it. It goes in a not even line. Again, that kalter the Rishbam brings over here looks like a W. Take in all these cases, take because it's not very easy to plow. If it's one big seller, what we talk about, the Rishbam brings 2 pshat. But the first pshat the Rishbam says, we're talking about that if there was one seller that is that's the beginning of the soda, meaning the field, the seller is on the edge of the soda. So I said, if you have a field, they have many rocks within the field, that's sold within the field. But if the rock is in the edge, that's not sold in the field. Because start counting from after the seller. I don't want to buy that seller. Or even it's very close to the border. What happens if it's not right next to the border? There's a little dirt between the rock and the border. Do you say then it's part of the field, or because it's only a little dirt, so then it's not? So he says, right, that's what happens if you have Musay Ratemau? Take her. So according to the Rishbam, I have this rock, but the rock is not fully a rock. There is dirt, either underneath the rock or on top of the rock. Is it a rock that I don't count? Or because I have dirt including in it, I do count it. So basically, the last part, according to this first shot of the Rishbam, is referring to a new case. Not the case we spoke about till now. We're talking about that I don't measure a field starting from a rock. So the Mishnah. Base core offer and the person sells the base core offer. And he says, Mido bechevel. I'm going to measure to you exactly. With a rope, with a measuring tape. Pichas koshu yinake. Hoite koshu yachzer. If he the seller subtract a little bit from the field, he has to give him back money. Yinaki means you give back some part of the money. Because he paid for exact amount of his score. You give him a little less. You have to give him back the money, at least that amount. Rajvani explains, why don't you say that it's a mekach tos, like we find by metaltlim? He says because metaltlim is different than kakaros. Kakaros you don't ever know. So if I sold you something which is worth 50, it's for 50 yards, and I sold you 49 yards, you give me back $1. But if he says the words more or less, that's a translation for our English. I'm giving you 50 bits more or less. It's approximately. Even if he had a roiva for heavy sale, or he subtracted roiva the sale, he geared. That's fine. Roiva per seya is enough, right? Roiva akav for every sale. Why is that? Why? Because how many? The Rashban does a quick cheshbon. For roiva akav is how many sale do I have in a field? In a base core, I have 30 sale. How many roivas do I have? Quarter of a kav times 30. Because I have roiv of 30. So roiva kav times 30, 30 times a quarter. What is that? 7.5. Roiva kav is 30, you get 7.5, right? Because you do it's divisible by 4 because it's the quarter. So a quarter times 7 is 28. And then you do you have to get to 30, so it's 7.5. So then, up to a quarter per se, it's fine. More than that, yasa cheshbon. Then you have to do a cheshbon. What is the cheshbon that you have to do? So, you have to come and do the cheshbon based, as the board is going to explain, the Rashbam points out, based on what the valuation is in the market right now, based on what the valuation was in the market before, that's where the cheshbon has to be. We'll see in the Gemara. What is he giving back? So what are we talking about? We're talking about the buyer. When the buyer gives back to the seller, let's say the buyer took too much, what is he giving back? He gives him back money. If he wants to give him back the land, so why is he giving back money? The seller could say, I prefer you to give me money back. Why? Because I don't want you to give me a piece of land in the middle of nowhere. Continues the Mishnah and says, She'im shir basoda beistisha kavin. That she'im here is a little hard to understand. But we're telling him, this whole discussion is if the amount left, the amount extra that we have, is a very small amount. It's only 7.5 kav. Meaning, it's a quarter per, we said that up to a quarter per se is fine. Comes to be the base score is 7.5 kavim. So if you give a little extra, it says 7.5, 8.5, that's fine. But once you reach 9, once the cheshbon of what's extra is 9, the din is, then you give it back. Why? Because 9 kavim is a chashivus of a small field. A small field is the size of 9 kavim. So I can tell you, listen, you have only a little extra. It's only 7.5, 8. It's very little. Give me back money instead of giving back a field. It's too little to be a field. But if it's 9, which is a full field, then you give back the field. That's what Mishnah says. Shim shir b'soy beistisha kavim, or begin on a garden beis chatzi kav. Rabbi Akiva beis roiva. Rabbi Akiva holds that the size of a small garden is a quarter of a kav. Machzilo sakaka. Then you give it back the karka. Why? Because it's choshev on its own. And the Mishnah says, so you don't give back only the roiva, only that quarter extra. I mean the extra. The Gemara as they say the lush of the Mishnah is wrong. But not only the extra you give him by giving the whole thing. Once I give him something back, I give him back the whole thing. I don't say, listen, I'm allowed to exaggerate or add a roiva more or roiva less. I can't add more. So let me give you back the more. Right? Once you give back the more, you give back the whole thing. This goes back to what we learned in the Gemara earlier. You give back more. Okay, so this is the end of his daf.